You think you're great at multitasking, but science says you're probably lying to yourself. And the cost of that lie might be destroying 40% of your productivity every single day. We live in a world that worships multitasking like it's a superpower. Scrolling through emails while on a conference call, texting while watching TV, listening to podcasts while working on reports, wear our ability to juggle multiple tasks like a badge of honor. Society celebrates the busy, the constantly connected, the people who seem to do everything at once. Job descriptions demand it, productivity gurus preach it, and your brain rewards you with a hit of dopamine every time you switch between tasks, making you feel like you're conquering the world. But here's the uncomfortable truth that researchers have been screaming about for decades. Your brain physically cannot multitask, not in the way you think. What you're actually doing is rapidly switching between tasks, and every single switch is costing you time, accuracy, and mental energy you don't even realize you're burning. The human brain lacks the neural architecture to perform two complex cognitive tasks simultaneously. When you think you're multitasking, your brain is actually engaging in something called task switching. And this process is devastatingly inefficient. Neuroscientists have discovered that when you shift from one task to another, your brain goes through 3 distinct phases. Disengagement from the current task, reorientation, to determine what the new task requires, and activation, where it loads the relevant information and rules for the new challenge. This isn't instantaneous. This switching process creates what researchers call a cognitive bottleneck, and the consequences are far worse than most people imagine. Studies using functional MRI scans reveal that the frontoparietal control network and dorsal attention network light up with significantly more activity during task switching, meaning your brain is working harder just to keep up with your chaotic habits. The American Psychological Association found that these mental blocks created by shifting between tasks can cost as much as 40% of someone's productive time. Think about that for a moment. If you work an 8-hour day, you could be losing more than 3 hours simply because you refuse to focus on one thing at a time. Here's where it gets interesting. Researchers at the University of California, Irvine, discovered that after an interruption or task switch, it takes an average of 23 minutes and 15 seconds to fully regain focus on your original task. 23 minutes. That means if you check your phone just 5 times during a work session, you've potentially lost nearly 2 hours of deep, productive work. The global impact is staggering. One report estimated that task switching costs the worldwide economy approximately $450 billion annually due to lost productivity. But the damage isn't just measured in time and money. Every switch increases your error rate, reduces comprehension, and accelerates mental fatigue. When you divide your attention, you don't fully absorb information. Your arguments become less coherent, and you're significantly more prone to mistakes. Meta-analyses examining dozens of multitasking studies have consistently shown a linear decline in accuracy as the number of simultaneous tasks increases. The more you try to juggle, the sloppier your work becomes. Now, this is where researchers were stunned. The people who multitask the most are often the worst at it, yet they're the most confident in their abilities. A groundbreaking study published in scientific journals revealed a fascinating paradox. Multitasking behavior was positively correlated with participants' perceived ability to multitask, but that perception was significantly inflated compared to actual performance. In other words, the individuals who believed they were multitasking champions were often the ones failing most dramatically. Why? Because people who multitask frequently tend to have higher levels of impulsivity and sensation-seeking behavior, and they struggle more than others to block out distractions and maintain focus on a single task. They not multitasking because they good at it. They multitasking because their brains crave the stimulation and novelty of multiple activities, even when it destroys their productivity. This creates a vicious cycle. The dopamine hit from switching tasks makes you feel productive and accomplished, reinforcing the behavior even though objective measurements show your performance is declining. Your brain is essentially tricking you into thinking you're crushing it when you're actually drowning. But this is the part most people never hear. There's a tiny subset of the population, approximately 2.5%, who actually can multitask effectively. Neuroscientists call them supertaskers, and their brains function fundamentally differently from the rest of us. When researchers at the University of Utah scanned the brains of these rare individuals, they discovered something remarkable. Supertaskers showed less neural activation when multitasking became more demanding, while ordinary people's brains had to work significantly harder. For most humans, a tougher challenge recruits more brain resources, but supertaskers achieve greater efficiency with minimal increased activity. The differences were most striking in three frontal brain regions: the frontopolar prefrontal cortex, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, and the anterior cingulate cortex. Scientists have even found preliminary evidence suggesting these individuals possess a specific variant of a gene called catecholomethyltransferase, which leads to more efficient dopamine signaling in brain regions supporting multitasking. Their brains are literally wired differently. Unless you're part of this exceptionally rare group, and statistically, you're almost certainly not. Attempting to multitask is sabotaging everything you're trying to accomplish. Here's the twist almost everyone gets wrong. The solution isn't just about willpower or discipline, it's about understanding how your brain actually works and aligning your behavior with biological reality rather than cultural mythology. Single tasking, or what productivity researchers call deep work, isn't some trendy productivity hack. It's the natural state in which your brain performs optimally. When you immerse yourself completely in one task, eliminating distractions and resisting the urge to jump between activities, something remarkable happens. Your prose flows more smoothly, complex problems become easier to solve, and you complete work faster with fewer errors. Studies comparing focused work to multitasking show that concentrated effort on a single task improves both quality and speed of completion while simultaneously reducing mental fatigue and increasing job satisfaction. The cognitive resources you were burning on constant switching get redirected entirely into productive output. Techniques like the Pomodoro method, which involves 25 minutes of focused work followed by short breaks or longer 90-minute deep work sessions, are unpopular because they re-trendy. They re-effective because they work with your brain's natural rhythms instead of against them. The modern world has engineered an environment specifically designed to destroy your ability to focus. Smartphones buzzing with notifications, open browser tabs screaming for attention, email alerts interrupting every thought, social media platforms algorithmically optimized to fragment your concentration into infinitely scrollable micro-moments. Research on smartphone addiction has revealed that chronic exposure to these constant interruptions literally reshapes your brain, reducing gray matter in the prefrontal cortex, weakening sustained attention, impairing memory formation, and training your neural networks for short bursts of focus rather than deep engagement. You not weak for struggling with focus, you fighting against billion-dollar companies whose entire business model depends on fragmenting your attention. The myth of multitasking isn't just a harmless misconception. It's a cultural delusion that's making you less effective, more stressed, and perpetually exhausted while convincing you that you're being productive. The science is unambiguous. Your brain can only concentrate on one complex idea at a time. Trying to override this biological limitation doesn't make you efficient, it makes you slow, error-prone, and mentally drained. The most productive people aren't the ones doing everything at once. They're the ones who have the courage to do one thing at a time with complete attention, knowing that focused depth beats scattered breaths every single time. When you close the extra tabs, silence your phone, and commit fully to a single task, you're not limiting yourself, you're unleashing your brain's actual potential. The next time you feel that dopamine-fueled urge to switch tasks, remember, that feeling of productivity is a lie your brain is telling you. Real productivity is quieter, deeper, and infinitely more powerful. It happens when you stop pretending to be a superhuman multitasker and start being an exceptional single-tasker instead. The 40% of your productive time you're currently sacrificing to task switching costs. The 23 minutes you're losing after every interruption. The accuracy you rebleeding with every divided moment of attention, all of it can be reclaimed the moment you accept that multitasking is a myth and start working with your brain instead of against it. What myth should I break down next?